Earlier this year, I left my job due to burnout. The very next week, I did a very unlike me thing and booked a stay at an Ayurvedic wellness retreat. It was a jumpstart to begin my recovery. One of the magical features of this retreat were the guests, each of them interesting in their own right. But it's today's guest on the Podgress Report who immediately spoke to my soul and sparked creativity, hope, and excitement. And as I've gotten to know her, I realize that's just her normal effect on people. She joins us today to share her journey, moving from intense anxiety in a 9-to-5 that was anything but, to becoming an energetic, successful entrepreneur. A note, we do experience a bit of sound quality trouble in this issue, but it's too good of a conversation to hold back. I'll keep working to improve our tech, and until then, don't let it stop you from progressing. This is the Podgress Report, and I'm Jen Phillips. If you are experiencing burnout, or you don't know the rightest next step in your career, you are not alone. If you've listened to any of my recent content, you know that between 60 and 80% of US workers complain of burnout. And today, we have someone with us, an incredible guest, who not only has been in your shoes where you are right now, but also can give us an inspiration and share with us a little bit of a light on how to go from that to owning your own successful business. Welcome, Chef Lisa Brooks.
Yay. Hello.
Hi, Chef. I want to tell you that Chef Lisa Brooks, if you don't know her, first of all, she's a bit of a phenom. She has been featured in many media outlets and across many platforms, from Forbes and Ebony and the Women's Business Journal to being an author, the CEO of her own company, kind of a master of TikTok. She's the 2022 Charlatan of the Year. And 2022 is a big year for you as well, because you were a finalist on a historic Black History Month edition of Chopped.
Yes. Yeah.
You've done so much more, but wow. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
I also want to say, and I've told you this, but I want to just say it for the record. I met Chef Lisa Brooks the week after I had left my own job. And I was in a moment of what the flip did I just do? And you'll hear Chef Lisa talk about her own divine intervention. But I want to tell you, Chef Lisa Brooks, you, I believe, are my divine intervention. I was really in a moment where I wasn't quite sure that I'd done the right thing. And then you walked in and told me the story of you that you're about to tell. And I realized, oh no, there's a million different ways to have a successful, happy life. And you're absolutely proof of that. So thank you.
Well, thank you for just calling that out, because, you know, we as women particularly, I mean, we suffer so much from that second guessing and self-doubt and imposter syndrome. And so even at every stage with all the things that you just mentioned, all the things I've accomplished, right? You still always have that kind of, at least I do with my personality, that sense of, am I, impactful? Am I living in my purpose? And so for you to say such kind things and say that I had that impact on you, just to know that it just continues to confirm for me that I am absolutely doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm walking exactly in the path I'm supposed to walk into. And the part of that purpose is the fact that other women will see me, hear my story, hear it directly from me or hear it secondhand, and be inspired to walk boldly into the next chapter of their lives. And so I don't take that for granted at all.
Well, you got it exactly right. That's exactly the feeling I had when I met you. I'm emotional hearing you say that, because yes, women need to see that example, and you are setting that example. But before we get into the example you set today, let's go back to where this whole journey for you really started. Let's go back. What is it?
14 years. 14 years. Yep, 14 years since I walked away from the rat race, if you will. I was in IT and in a IT company, healthcare software systems, and I managed technical support call centers. And I worked there for 18 years and had worked my way up in the company. In fact, I was a single mom, and although I'd gone to undergrad and at UNC, and I had 3 years under my belt, then I got married and had my son, and with the full intention that, oh, Mom, I'm going to finish school, but I didn't. So I didn't have the degree. And so to work my way up in this company and to have, at that time, this is 2010, to have over 6-figure salary at that point for an African American woman of color, single mom, it just was something you don't take lightly to walk away from that, and people were scared for me, and no less than a dozen people tried to talk me out of leaving. Before the leaving, I want to just talk about what I was experiencing and the things that my body was telling me. My body was telling me, and I mean, the stress was literally killing me. So I was having migraines. I was experiencing probably for 4 years leading up to this. But for 4 years, I'd had insomnia, and I was taking Ambien to go to sleep, and then drinking energy drinks and coffee to wake up every day. I had to take something to wake up, take something to go to sleep. And then I had a panic attack. This is January 28th, 2007. Wow. I had a panic attack, and I never knew what a panic attack was before that day. And I thought I was going to die. I thought I was having a heart attack. Seriously. It changed everything, because it was the scariest thing I'd ever experienced. I literally thought I was going to die. And I kept thinking that. I mean, it wasn't just the one time. The one time was the worst time, but I couldn't believe there was nothing wrong with me. They told me I had a panic attack, and I was like, no, there's no way. You got to check everything. I had to have a heart attack, or it was a stroke, or it was something. I just couldn't believe it was just stress induced. Right. But after about 3 to 4 months of fighting and thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars of medical bills from calling 911 almost every day, I ended up having to take disability for 6 months because I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't drive my car. I couldn't even go to the post office. I was becoming a recluse out of the fear of another panic attack. And so that started a long journey with the panic and anxiety, but it's also the start of the wake-up call of, I can't keep doing this. The stress of the job and the fact that I could never turn off. I was not allowed to turn off. Always on call, always a phone call away. When we first started out, we had pagers. That's how old I am. But always on call, always able to be reached by my employees, always accessible to my superiors, to the directors, to the VP, always. Never on vacation. It's expected that you answer your email. It's expected that you chime into an important conference call, even if you're on vacation. And so never being able to turn that off and just realize that I'm giving all of myself to this company. And even though it was the lie that we were told is that was security.
Right.
But in all honesty, there was nothing secure about it. Layoffs happened every quarter in that world. It was just a false sense of security.
Well, you said something. You said, I thought it would kill me, and I kept thinking that.
Mm-hmm.
So while you're walking around thinking daily, hey, I think this is killing me, you also had on the other side of your mind, and there is no security here. So the false sense of security that we try and hold is really not reality-based thinking. So, okay, so let me ask you this. Why didn't you leave earlier? It sounds like you suffered for a long time. What stopped you from leaving?
So it was a process. There was an entire process that had to happen from the inside out. It was like a circle, in a sense, around my heart, around my false beliefs, my limiting beliefs. All those things had to be kind of cut away. And let me say, I'm a preacher's kid. I grew up in church. And when I was 18 years old, I said I was never going to go to church ever again in my life. And so I had a relationship with God. I knew God from the time I was a little girl. But the whole organized church thing, I was like, I don't know about this, right? So, but this period of time in my life, it kind of brought me back into a place where, okay, I need to, I really need your help, God with this whole thing and help me understand what is it I'm supposed to do. Like, I'm at my wit's end. I've reached the end of myself and my ability to reason this out, to problem solve it. I don't know what to do. Everything that was before me, it seemed as if like it would be crazy to walk away. And any person would have told me that it was crazy. I thought it was, I just didn't even know what I could do. So in the time between 2007 and 2010, when I actually left, there was just a process of coming to grips with all of these things. I was in therapy from after the panic attack and all. I went into therapy. So just talking through this feeling, like, why am I having these feelings that I need to be this performer for everyone? I need to be superwoman. My employees are depending on me. Like, yeah, they don't, they're fine. They're going to be fine. But I had to go through a process in therapy. It took me a while. And then in church, I actually went back into a church, of course, a way more modern church than I've grown up in, and really accessed some power there and was able to attack it from a spiritual standpoint, from a, just from a like therapy standpoint, an emotional well-being standpoint. Had to really come to grips with the fact that I had just allowed myself to get into this place of perfection-based, performance-based, like living. And as a single mom, I really thought that was the example for my son, the thing for him to be proud of. But if I'm honest, that all of that time, I look back in retrospect that I spent so many hours away from him, dropping him off to be babysat by someone, or someone else had to pick him up from daycare because I'm working over. I missed so many things. I let the job take a lot of things from me. And now I realize that the thing he is most proud of, he's 33 years old at this point, is this second chapter. The fact that the boldness, the courage, all of the things that he's witnessed since 2010 when I walked away, that was the thing. That was the thing to really be proud of. Yeah.
I want to really home in on, it's a process. Mm-hmm. Yep. You're walking around feeling deeply, deeply unwell.
Yes.
Reaching out for help, both on the physical front and on the emotional and spiritual front.
Yes.
And yet going to people who loved you and saying, I think this might be killing me. And still there was a reaction from them not to leave, not to give up.
Yeah.
And so there was something, though, that happened that helped you get from the chapter you were in to start the book. It's a different book, I feel, honestly, but to start the new chapter or the new book that you're in now. What was the moment?
The actual moment, January 2010. This is funny. I've been at that point, probably the last couple of months, I kept hearing, cook, you need to cook. You need to cook for a living. I'm like, wait, what? How is that going to happen? I've been cooking my whole life, cooking since I was a little girl. I never even considered the possibility of doing that for a living. I knew I didn't want to work in a restaurant. I loved like cooking for people, feeding people. It's like the Southern mama in me, I guess. But I just I couldn't see the actual vision. And sometimes lots of times that's how God works. His faith requires that you believe in something you can't see. So, I couldn't see all the steps. I couldn't see exactly how it was going to pan out. Of course, if I could have seen all the things that have happened since, I would have jumped into it, right? But that wouldn't have required any faith. So I kept hearing the cook. I didn't know how that was going to look. But then I kept getting these affirmations from just random people. It was just coming at me. And I truly believe that's how God speaks to us. It's like the same message keeps coming at you from all these different ways in the universe. So I went to a ladies' New Year's Day brunch thing, and I took this collard green quiche and a black-eyed pea salad. Because collard greens and black-eyed peas, it's like traditionally New Year's,
right.
New Year's dinner. But this was a brunch, and I just wanted to do something different with collard greens and black-eyed peas. And these women acted like it was the most insane thing they'd ever tasted. And oh my God, the way I presented it and just all the things, they were like, why are you not doing this for a living? I don't understand. Like, you missed your calling. Like, people kept saying that. And it's like, okay, I get it. So that was literally the moment, that brunch on January 1st, 2010, where it kind of just solidified everything, all the things that I've been struggling with over the last few years. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go. I heard God say, just turn and walk in that direction. And then my psychiatrist, who I don't know if she's spiritual or not, I kind of sort of guess not. I don't know. But, she's totally science-based and very stoic she was. But she literally said the same phrase to me. She said, why don't you just turn and walk in that direction? And it was just very weird. She said the same thing I'd heard from God, the same exact verbatim. You need to just turn and walk in that direction. And so then I focused on how do I then do this? What are the steps I need to take? I knew I was going at that point.
So mentally, that was the switch. I don't know exactly what this means that I will cook. I have not been to culinary school. I don't have any of the credentials that would, I think, be needed, but I know I'm going in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah. And as scary as that was, there were some things that happened. I had real estate in 2009 when the real estate market crashed. I had a couple of properties and, long story short, I had to file bankruptcy and I was devastated because I had my amazing credit score and, done all this stuff by myself. And so here I am like back at zero and I'm like, oh my God, I thought I was so embarrassed. Just felt like a failure in that. Because I really thought the real estate might make me enough money, to get out, but it didn't work. But the silver lining in that is, had I not filed that bankruptcy, if I still had all that debt, because, it's not just the houses. When you file bankruptcy, everything goes. All your debt, all your credit cards goes in the pot, gets kind of wiped away. So granted, I have a bankruptcy, but I also have zero debt at this point. I don't think I could have done the whole exit and go to culinary school thing. Right. So it ended up being a blessing in disguise. Of course, this is all in retrospect. But I want to be clear with the fact that spiritual process of me really seeking answers, being still and listening for those answers desperately. It was a desperate cry. It really was. And that's when I started to hear very clearly what it was I was supposed to do.
I think that is such an important point. When you're in that moment, I think, and you describe it as well, I think that the norm is to try and push through, muscle past it, keep going, set a good example for your kids by being strong. And really what you're doing is that takes so much effort. You're not able to slow down, quiet down, listen up.
Yes.
Be creative to the other opportunities that are abundant.
Yes. Yes.
And I think for you, it came very, very loud and clear through your spiritual relationships, but also was backed by kind of every other direction as well. And if you hadn't been in that stillness and willingness to listen, to hear, then I think you would miss it. So I think the lesson here really is for those of you that are out there struggling with how do I get the energy up today to push past this? I challenge you to think in terms of how do I carve out 10 minutes of stillness today?
Yeah.
How do I be more open and ready to hear?
Yes.
To be creative and listen for opportunities that are currently all around me. And cynics, and there are cynics, there's so many cynics.
Yeah.
By the way, cynicism is part of burnout. So if you feel cynical about this, I am not surprised. But cynics might say, well, that's just too woo-woo and out there, and I'm not spiritual. And I tell you, it is not woo-woo. It is not out there. There is another path. There are myriads of other paths than the path you are on right now. but not all of them will be right. Not all of them will fit as well as what happened with you, Lisa. And I think that the reason that your path has fit, not that you haven't had struggles, but I think that what is so important, especially in the beginning, is allowing that convening of voices to kind of say, it's this thing. And you heard it in stereo all around from every different source.
Surround sound.
Surround sound. Exactly.
I did. And that was just that confirmation. I feel like that's what will happen when you're walking in the right direction, or when, whatever it is you believe, the universe is trying to tell you something. So, because I believe these are universal laws. I mean, I think it's universal that when you seek something, you'll find it. When you look for it, when you call that thing a law of attraction, whatever you want to say, but when you kind of put it out there and you're open, that you will then receive what it is that you're looking for, the direction that you want, the clarity that you want, that whole powering through, being the strong woman, and it's just a lie.
I believe that being strong is important, but I think that strength has many different forms. And that quietude, being able to sit quietly and open to just kind of the beauty of life for, I'm telling you, 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, that is a super powerful move.
Yes.
That reflection, like I've taken to journaling every single day, and meditation and walks in nature every day. And it changes me down to my DNA. Yeah. That is where I have my creative thinking. That is where I have my epiphanies, my good ideas, or something you'll say during this episode, or something that I've heard in passing will come back to me. And it's clear in that moment. Oh, that's very important.
Yes. Yes. I mean, that is power, and that is strength to be able to do that.
Okay. This is why I love you so much. And now you have made the decision now in your heart and soul. Ultimately, what did that mean for you? What was the first major step that you took to get on the path you're on now?
Okay. Well, I researched food jobs, because I literally was like, what am I going to do with food? Cook. What do you mean cook? What am I going to do? So I literally searched online food jobs that do not require working in a restaurant. And I was researching, and I found like a food stylist. I was like, that's interesting. And I saw a personal chef, and I was like, ooh, what is this? And I thought of like a bed and breakfast, something where I could cook kind of like once, and it be like this, like a thing, like an experience or something. That's what I really wanted, not like the hubbub of a restaurant. Once I decided on a personal chef, then it was like, okay, well, I decided I'm going to go to culinary school, because as you mentioned, I don't have any credentials. I don't have any education behind that. And so I thought, you know what? My son's graduating high school. He's going to college. I am going to go to culinary school. So I researched where the schools were in Charlotte. Pretty much there's 3 culinary schools here, 3 major ones. Then I looked for an apartment here in Charlotte. And here goes another confirming thing that happened. The guy who was showing me the apartment, this was in late March 2010. We're just chit-chatting, small talking. And he said, what brings you to Charlotte? So, well, I'm from here, but I'm coming back to go to culinary school. I'm going to be a personal chef, right? And he's like, oh, that's really cool. My wife and I are looking for a personal chef. And I was like, yeah, okay, dude. Like, right. I'm going to rent the apartment. Like, I like the apartment. You don't have to do that. But no, he said, no, I'm going to have my wife call you. And I was like, yeah, okay. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, this woman calls me. Sight unseen, food untasted. Are you kidding me? She's like, yeah, my husband told me he met you and that you're going to be a personal chef, and we want to hire you as a personal chef.
Were you did you have any part of that worked out?
No, like not at all. But I mean, I was like, wait, what is happening? And so now I had been working behind the scenes, because from January when I made that decision until this is now March. So, I don't let grass grow under my feet pretty much. So I've been like, once I figured out the personal chef thing, I was like researching, well, how does this work? What do personal chefs do? So I had an idea of like how it would work, but I was still kind of early in the process. So that took me aback to say, oh yeah, we want to hire you. Like I have no website. I have nothing. And so she said, yeah, I said, you realize I'm not moving until like almost 2 months away. She said, yeah, we'll wait. What? Like, who does that happen to? It's unbelievable. And sure enough, I moved May 20th. into that apartment that he showed me. And then May 22nd, that Monday, I cooked for he and his wife. They're as a meal prep as their personal chef. And I cooked for them for probably a year and a half or so. And they, referred me word of mouth and just sang my praises. And I got other business from them. But so I had a client before I stepped foot in Charlotte, before I entered culinary school. I had a client already. That's what I mean when I say the continual confirmation of the fact that you absolutely are going in the right direction, that this is your purpose. It should be easy. It should feel like, okay, I'm getting some wind behind me. Doors are opening a little easier than when you feel like you're swimming upstream, right? And it's like, okay, it's just everything was confirming this is exactly what I was supposed to do. And so that was kind of the first big sign. I literally was doing exactly what I was told, which was just put one foot in front of the other and walk in the direction of the thing. I didn't have to have it all figured out. I didn't have to have it planned from A to Z. In fact, it was not going to happen that way. I couldn't have planned it. I couldn't have planned I couldn't have planned this. I just wanted to make enough money to pay my rent. I was thinking, I'm going to live this meager existence. I don't need much. That's kind of how I was thinking. I had no idea that I was going to be catapulted into just, to be this light on a hill. And really, it's just been unbelievable, the journey, but it started with putting the one foot in front of the other and walking in that direction. That's it.
It wasn't only that you put the one step in front of the other, but I think the openness, you put it out there to this, you don't know who you're talking to. And you had the intention of becoming, the future tense, becoming a personal chef. And you mentioned it. So I think you also take some ownership of that because you were walking in the direction, but you also were walking in the direction with intention and openness. Yeah. And I think that is one of the reasons that you were presented with this great opportunity, which was your first paying client?
First paying client. Wow. Absolutely. And I've told this story many times. I've never thought about that. I've never thought about what you just mentioned. It was the fact that I said it. I wasn't hiding it. I wasn't, afraid to tell someone this is what I'm doing. You just, for the first time, brought that to my attention that, had I not said anything that day, if I had not mentioned, I'm going to be a personal chef. If I hadn't said anything, that whole chain of events wouldn't have happened. So thank you for bringing that it's the first time of me kind of thinking that and realizing that.
Well, it is incredibly important. And the reason I bring it up to you is because, one, it's true. And then two, because I had that moment with you, Chef Lisa, where I saw you walk into this wellness retreat and I was already magnetized to you. You're like catnip to me. You're so fascinating. I just want to be near you. And when you started talking, it was clear to me, I think this is somebody who I would have liked to have heard from 6 months ago when I started really getting into my moment of despair. I don't know what I need to do, but I need to do something because I am in physical, emotional, and spiritual duress, right?
Yes.
And so I mentioned to you, this is what I'm thinking about, which at the time was a kind of a very different concept than where I am right now. And you volunteered. You volunteered to be here right now.
Yeah.
And that's now months ago. But if I wouldn't have mentioned it, maybe I would have missed out on this amazing moment that I'm sharing with you now.
Yeah. Life is so amazing.
I
just got to keep living.
You bravely stepped forward, but you did it with openness and you were rewarded with somebody that was looking for exactly what you had to offer.
Yeah.
Then a bunch of stuff happened.
So I enrolled in culinary school. I move in May. I start working for this client. So August is going to be start of culinary school. And so I'm still working for the company though, just working remote, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give my 2 weeks notice on July 15th. I'm going to give my notice that I'm out of here because I'm enrolled. On July 9th, I got laid off from that job with full benefits and my full salary for, I think it was think it was 1 month for every year I'd been with the company, if I'm not mistaken. And so it was just like, and I'd heard in prayer, I'd heard from God. He'd said, the company is still going to pay you. I just heard that. And I thought, this is my thinking, my limited thinking, my earthly thinking, my mortal human thinking, was that, okay, that means that, because they always do catering and stuff. So I'm going to end up catering for the company at some point, and I'll be getting paid from them that way. That's what I thought it meant. But clearly, when I got the severance, which I was told I could not be laid off. I was a Black woman over 40. Like, they're not going to touch you. You're untouchable. So that was amazing. I was walking away with nothing. I was 6 days away from turning in just my resignation.
Wow.
And that took me almost through all of culinary school. So I was free. I was literally free. I was free. And I think it was just a gift for like a reward for the faith step. It's already taken the faith step. I mean, it was happening. I was moving. And that's really what happened. Like, I was going to go with nothing. And then the layoff happened, and it was like, oh my God. Again, another incredible, unbelievable step at that point. That was literally the close of that chapter.
That chapter is gone. And now the new Lisa, who is now Chef Lisa. I imagine you with your chef jacket on and your knives. You go to culinary school and you're really just in it and focusing and learning the business.
My time wasn't split. Like, it was just like, I was fully present. Like, when you go back as an adult to secondary education, it's like you pay attention. You're fully invested in the learning and soaking things up. And that's how I was. It was just like, I was in this world of cooking my whole life. And now I'm getting this like formal training, this classic French culinary, learning the techniques, learning the verbiage, learning things that, like, I didn't know the name for things, whereas my grandmother taught me how to make a pan gravy with, fat in the pan, and sprinkle a little flour, make a little pan gravy, and you add your stock or your milk. Well, I didn't know that was a roux, and then that was called a velouté, and all these things I didn't know the names for them. And I got to be fully present for that, just fully present as a student. I was just at peace. I did not know that like life could feel that way. It's my first taste of like true freedom, true freedom. And I really feel like I've been saying this a lot to my clients that I coach in the personal chef space, that, happiness is what we're all seeking. And I really strongly believe that happiness comes from being free, from freedom, right? And freedom comes from courage. Like, you have to have courage. I don't think anyone's ever got truly free without overcoming a fear, without having the courage to step into a new realm. And so that's kind of the formula, right? And you have to get on the other side of the fear. You just have to cast it down and say, you know what? What's the worst thing that can happen if I move forward? That's what I did. Like, well, what's the worst case scenario?
What was your worst case scenario?
If this completely bombs and fails, right? Two things I thought, which I feel like are important to say. There's two things. One is that, I have family, I have sisters, I have people, like what I might have to move in with a family member or something, like move in with one of my sisters. Like, I really thought, okay, if that's the worst case scenario, that's not that bad of a scenario, right? And the second scenario is, because of my character and the way that I've behaved and performed my whole life with any job I've ever had, I could go back to any place that I've ever worked and they'd take me back because of how I left and how I never burned bridges, just lived a life kind of integrity. And so that's really important that I had relationships that could become a cushion for me if I needed them to be, never had to, but that's what got me into over that worst case scenario. Once I really thought about it, I was like, well, there's nothing to fear here.
Your worst case, you were willing to accept.
Right. Exactly.
But the worst case, if you stayed, I think is really dire because you were afraid of dying.
Absolutely. I know I would have had a heart attack or a stroke. My medical doctor told me as much.
And So you made the change, you start moving in the direction, you are getting clients, you go into this blissful period where you're allowed as a grown up lady to focus on a passion of yours, being educated on this passion of yours, this cooking, which I think it's really beautiful kind of how you came to cooking and the way you talk about your mission here, the why behind the cooking.
Yeah, my family matriarchs, my mother, Mabel, my grandmother, Maddie, and my great grandmother, Tossie. They were, those are my Southern credentials right there. If I say those names, I can cook, right?
Mm-hmm.
They obviously, they taught me how to cook. And I won't say obviously, maybe because I don't know, it's not everyone's shared experience, but having Sunday dinners with family and in our family, Sunday dinners at my grandmother's house was like everything. It was like you look forward to that every single week. And we all went to different like churches or, whether we went to church or not. Like some people didn't go to church, but we all came together at my grandmother's house at like 1 p.m. on Sunday. All of my mom's siblings and their kids, all of my cousins in this little tiny 2-bedroom house. There'd be like 60 people there with all of my family every week. And it was a place of fun and just, of course, food, abundance. I felt love. I felt laughter. So it was it was the best place. I felt surrounded by love, completely accepted. And that feeling, which I say was pure joy. That's the feeling I wanted to capture and bottle up and share with other people.
Mm.
Like, hey, remember this feeling or discover it for the first time or rediscover it. Like this feeling of this joy of the fact that we used to break bread together and we used to like laugh and like share a meal and be present with each other. My mother also, being a preacher's wife, she would throw these amazing dinner parties. And she was a hostess with the mostest, pretty much, right? And she was a classy lady. All of them were. But she did these amazing dinner parties. And so I got to see this other side of these like extravagant kind of spreads. And of course, I'd help her all day long with the food and making everything. And then I was banished to the kids' room when it was time for the guests to arrive, right? But I'd like peek out and see the guests arriving and getting their coats taken. And it's just like this really elegant thing. And this is in the 70s. The 70s, Black family in the South in the 70s, to have those type of soirees was kind of, it was a thing. It was not a normal thing. The sense of elegance and that I'd never seen before. My mom, she ushered that into my life. So I have this love of family time, dinner time, that type of thing, but also this love of the elegance of a dinner party. And those are the things that have shaped my business from the ground up. They're the heart of my business. They inform the mission for my business. Both my local personal chef business that I first started with, that's now 14 years old, and the fact that now I coach other women to do this exact same thing and to be able to share with them and pull out of them their why, their experience. So it informs all of that for me.
First of all, that is beautiful. For you to describe both experiences, the family experiences of coming together every Sunday, and you say that was sheer joy. And then you have your mother's experiences that she was putting on, these more elegant experiences.
We moved into this house this house that was perfect for entertaining when I was in the 3rd grade, so 8 years old. And that's when my mom started throwing these dinner parties. And it's actually the house that we moved in at that point was in a white neighborhood. And again, this is all very, how do I say it? It was just very uncommon, right? I was the only Black girl in that neighborhood, only Black family in that neighborhood. I didn't even know any Black people on that side of town, in fact. And so I was kind of walking between these two worlds. And I don't want to go too far down this road, but it is just an important thing just to note that all of these things prepared me for today. And the fact that I could be kind of a bridge between two cultures. I learned I was in Girl Scouts with people that didn't look like me. I played softball with people that didn't look like me. I was, I was in the neighborhood with people that didn't look like me. I was going to my friend's house for sleepovers with people that didn't look like me. So it's like I got to see all these worlds. And so I get to be kind of a bridge now, because even now it's 2024. And even now, it's kind of like the people that I'm bringing into my company, and like younger Black girls, they've never walked into these houses and walked into these rooms. And it's part of my purpose, I believe, in it's not just feeding people as being a chef, but part of my purpose is ushering other women into their destiny. So when I'm going into these homes, these same neighborhoods, of course, figuratively speaking, where my grandmother was a maid, right?
Right.
And going back with the expertise that basically came from her, right, originally, as my original culinary instructor, right? And going into these homes and commanding thousands of dollars for what I do now, and telling her story in these homes, telling her story when I serve this dish or what have you. It's just so full circle.
I'm so excited because what you are describing is something that is really important, and actually a leadership superpower, which is curiosity. You are curious, and that you are open to the differences in life. And because I know from talking to you, you're the same way about travel. You're the same way about different types of foods. The reason I think you're able to put on uncommon experiences is because of that curiosity and openness. And I do believe that is one of the things that is a marker for success in any of these type of, let's say, unplanned journeys, right? I think you've got to be very open and curious to sense the path. Would you agree? Would you agree that these are two things that are incredibly important?
I absolutely agree. And I have a great analogy for that. It just came to me. Bear with me. I love analogies. But I've been this way since I was a little girl that goes off the beaten path. So where someone may follow a GPS exactly to the letter, right? Turn right, turn left. But I'm just like, well, what is this street? Where does this go? If I go down this street, I'll find a different way to get to where. So I always learn all the different ways to get somewhere, right? I find new ways and different ways to get there because I'm curious.
Yes.
And it's the same thing in life. Find different ways, new ways to get where you want to go because you're curious, because you're open. That curiosity, it is a superpower. I'm so glad you said that. I'd never heard that put that way, but it is.
It is. And I think it's a requirement for success in the entrepreneur or solopreneur space. Now, you are not a solopreneur, and I am very cognizant of the time I have kept you. So I want to talk at least a little bit about, we started with you, a person of one, being a personal chef to one family. But as you grew, so we have Heart and Soul Personal Chef Services. You're the CEO, but what are you doing now?
Yeah, so Heart and Soul is still alive and kicking. 14 years in business, the best personal chef service in Charlotte. Really just redefined what a personal chef service looks like. Historically, personal chefs worked alone. They were one-woman shows or one-man shows. And then, so I come along and I'm doing meal prep like every other personal chef, but I had this yearning to do dinner parties because of the influence from my mother. And so that's when, like, the fact that you can do dinner parties as a whole business, really, without ever doing meal prep as a personal chef, it's kind of it was a new layer at the time for this industry, if you will. And so Heart and Soul kind of it's very quickly took this pivot into where we really are specializing in dinner parties and helping people celebrate life's moments. And I started pulling other people in, other students in culinary school. Hey, you want to help me have an event this weekend? You want to come serve with me for this event? Start pulling in people that I could mentor. Because in culinary school, we don't learn about how to be a personal chef or cater, anything outside of restaurant, hotel, country club type life. And so I would bring in my classmates. That's where I got my first kind of staff from, right? And then I realized, you know what? I can serve triple the families if I have triple the people. So I started bringing on other chefs and other women as chefs, particularly. I've had both over the years, but it just kind of happened that we ended up being this powerhouse kick-ass team of women chefs. And it's kind of a constant training ground for younger chefs coming out of school and learning our industry through working as an intern with Heart and Soul, and then either being hired by Heart and Soul or me helping them launch their own business. And that's how Heart and Soul has I mean, we've just been able to just really expand and grow into like, $500,000 a year business, just here locally in the Charlotte area. It's just largely passive income for me now because the business, I won't say it runs itself, but I mean, I've got people in place, and for me, it's largely passive.
Now, you've talked about coaching. You've figured this playbook out. And what you do now is usher other women into this.
A couple of reasons. In our industry, year after year, more people are being diagnosed with things they can't eat. They're finding out their food intolerances. They're having these tests done and realizing that what's causing inflammation in my body, getting really individual with the things that they need to feed themselves. And so if you don't cook, but then you have all these dietary preferences, eating out is not going to be much of an option. And so that's where personal chefs can come in and really tailor something to the needs of the client. And that need is just going to grow and grow and grow. And with the celebratory aspect of things, just being able to go in and have that fulfilling, from the chef's viewpoint, to go in and be a part of people's life celebrations, because the spirit of hospitality is not to be underestimated, right? It's in the atmospheres and environments that we create that important ideas are able to be exchanged, that people are able to come together and spend time and be present, and like the foundational blocks of just like community, right, take place in the environments that we create. And so the spirit of hospitality is hugely important. And that's what, when women have that, they have it just naturally in them. And that's the thing that they love to do. And they have that thing that I had, like, I just love to feed people. That's where I found just my peace and my joy was in the kitchen and in cooking. And so there's other women that feel that way, but they also in the same place I was. They didn't know how that was going to work. So I want to show them this life. If you can cook and you love to do it and you love to entertain, but you don't see how this could be something you can monetize, well, guess what? I can show you exactly how to monetize that passion. And so that is what I do now, is like usher so many women into this industry. And I feel, if I'm going to be honest, like setting the standards for the industry. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is really cool. If you can find other people who are curious and open and had no idea that this existed and shortcut the process. So now you're removing that friction of, I know it's not this, but I can't really picture all of the steps in the journey. And now you say, okay, no, but I've done it. And here's my GPS. Now they may deviate some from it,
right,
but at least they've got some of it mapped out.
Right. They don't have to. They can pivot from whatever it is they're doing now. They can pivot and still kind of come in at a level. They don't have to go all the way back to the beginning, right? They can pivot and come right into a place. Because, especially, a lot of people who I do work with are more like mature women, other women who this is their second chapter as well. And so to be able to have that shortcut, because I don't want to go back to zero. I've already earned my way up in this place, and this, I've worked really hard where I am. So if I can show you how to pivot and stay kind of at your level of living you're already at, but do the thing you love. Right. Then, that's a win-win. So yeah, that's really a huge part of my purpose in this moment. And actually, God told me that early on when I was having the troubles and the difficulties in culinary school, when I would feel tired, and I'm just like kind of grinding. And there's times, of course, you get down, times you question things, and it's just hard. But God said, this is not about you, so get over yourself. None of this is about you. There's a whole bunch of other women that you'll never even meet. You'll never even see that are looking to you as a guide. You won't even know that. And so you have to keep going. You have to persevere. You have to push through this feeling you're having in this moment, because this ain't about you. It's just play it out over and over again. Even just meeting you. I'm not saying I played a part in your shift. You'd already decided to make the shift. My story is now a part of your story and your journey, right? And so you're one of the women God was talking about, and there's thousands. I don't even know. There might be tens of thousands. I have no idea how many.
Well, this is also important. We're in a moment where technology is a democratizer of your reach, right? And you have almost 250,000 followers across your different platforms. Like you said, you're not going to meet all these women, but you're still impressing on them. So how important has it been to not only your growth, your company's growth, but also to your mission?
I think to the mission, it's been hugely important because I'm able to reach people all over the world even. I've had people in Europe that I've coached. I've had people in in the islands and South America that I've coached. It's kind of crazy. And those women have found me online through social media, like 100% of that. My local personal chef business, social media is not the way that I get business for my local business, but the way that I'm able to reach women all over the place that want to learn from me, that see my example, it's definitely been social media. And if I'm being honest, it's been an intentional part. I've been very intentional about using social media, not to make money off of social media itself, even though that has happened, but that was never the intent. The intent was to just have a larger audience so that I could reach the people that need to hear the story. That's really was the intent of it.
Right. Also, in meeting you, you are incredibly genuine. So authentic. When you meet you in person, it's as exciting as then how authentic you are on social, which is why I think you've had the success you've had in reaching people kind of far flung across these platforms. But you are a genuine person. You have taken an intentional path, but you've put your curiosity against that path. So you've allowed the path to kind of unfold itself to you rather than plotting out every turn. So I like that GPS visualization.
Yes.
And I think one of the most important things I'm hearing from you is you took action and you didn't stop doing.
Correct.
And so when you had an idea, you acted on it. You didn't wait or overthink it. You didn't have to have everything plotted out. You acted.
Yes. I'm still just putting one foot in front of the other. Still, 14 years later, I'm still just walking in the direction of my purpose, my dream. I've never stopped walking in the direction.
So people that are listening here may be in a moment of extreme duress where they are not right now clear on even what the end goal vision is. What does this chef Lisa that's sitting here with me right now, what do you say to that person that's like, I don't know what it is, but I know it's not this?
Right. When you know it's not that, you have to just get still and get quiet and get curious and figure out what it is. I would just challenge people to think of the thing that brings them joy. And don't think of, well, how do I monetize that? Don't worry about that part. If something brings you joy, whatever that thing is, if you have a gift, a natural talent in something that people always tell you you're good at or whatever the case may be, then that is likely the thing the universe needs out of you. And if the universe needs it out of you and people are waiting for you to walk into your gift, your market is waiting for you to walk into your gift, all of that stuff is going to unfold when you walk into your gift. You just have to move in that direction. And don't worry about how it's going to monetize. Don't worry about, well, I'm going to make a living doing that. So if you know where you are is not, that's not it. You're miserable. It's not just this temporary burnout. I know we're talking about burnout, but it's more than just a temporary, you need a vacation type burnout. You're dreading. You spend the last half of your vacation dreading coming back to the office. You spend the first couple of days decompressing, probably still checking some emails. You maybe have one good day of rest, and then you spend the next 3 days dreading the fact that your vacation is going to be over. If that's like where you are, then you've reached the end point of that thing, right? Don't build a house in a season of your life where you were meant to just pitch a tent for a while, right? Move on, break down camp, and let's find the place you're supposed to be.
You said, think of the thing that brings you joy, that other people tell you, you should be doing this. Think of the thing that feels essentially natural to you. To add on to that, also realize that if you are the one that said, this thing is killing me that I'm doing right now, also listen to that.
Yeah.
Because it's not lying.
Mm-mm.
So no matter what, action is needed, even if that action is to find a better fit job or to really work with your leadership to say, this is no longer working. Respect the beauty of your life. I want to leave you with one final check-in. What is next for you, Chef Lisa?
Wow. Well, to stay true to everything I said, honestly, I don't 100% know, right? I only see like the next couple of steps clearly. But the thing that I'm doing now, and I'm being obedient to the season of teaching other women chefs, I do see an end to this season even. I see me traveling. I see me going really digging down into other cultures and food and language and that same spirit, the same spirit of hospitality, the same feeling of joy, that same just the mission that's kind of woven itself throughout my whole life, my whole being, to go and just see how are other people and other places, like how can I connect to them through this thing I love so much, which is food. And who knows, maybe that's going to be recorded. I don't know. Honestly, at this point, I'm going to do what I'm told, what I hear. But I really think my next season might be just one of rest. I think I might be ready to sit down. We're going to see. I know. It's exciting. I may be just getting ready.
But I think you sitting down is different, because when you're sitting down, I've seen you sitting down. You're evaluating the food. You're really diving into the culture. You are a student of life.
I am. Yes.
But everybody benefits from that, because then people feel the spotlight of interest shown upon them. And that is a good feeling. So you are just a person that brings good feeling and uncovers good feeling in others, even when you want to quiet down. I will guarantee you it's still going to happen. I'll guarantee you. Oh, okay. She's amazing. If you didn't get that, your chef Lisa Brooks everywhere on every platform. We will link everything in the episode notes. I thank you for dropping all of the wisdom. You are an inspiration to me. You are an inspiration to me. You are my divine intervention. And I couldn't be more appreciative for you being gracious with your time and being gracious with your story and giving, I hope, people that are listening a little bit of a light that they don't need to know every single turn on the journey, but they need to take action.
Yes. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Lisa. What we've just heard is really a masterclass in leveraging professional superpowers, specifically in Lisa's case, the superpowers of curiosity and authenticity. And Chef Lisa Brooks didn't know every single step of her journey, but she knew her life depended on making a change. She was clear on what gave her energy, creating meaningful experiences and celebrations through the convening power of good food, something she was also very, very good at. And that is literally the definition of a professional superpower. Once she realized that through self-reflection, through support from professionals, and through her own spiritual practice, she started taking action in that direction. And she didn't stop. And now she's helping others find their own path. I am so thrilled that Chef Lisa was candid with us on her journey from extreme anxiety to successful, energized, mission-driven CEO. And I am absolutely positive we will all see even more exciting growth from Lisa in the future. Stay in touch with the inspiring Chef Lisa Brooks. I've added all of her social handles and a link to her personal chef playbook in the episode notes. And if you want to know more about finding your own professional superpowers, I've linked an episode on that as well. Don't miss the next Podgress Report. We're joined by yet another incredible guest, and we're talking about how setting and respecting boundaries at work can be a workplace wellness game changer. If you liked what you're hearing on the Podgress Report, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss any of our upcoming reports. Your reviews help as well, so if you're loving the content, consider giving the show your review. Thank you so much for being here. Together, we really can help each other and help to make the workplace a better place as we grow. Until next time, here's to your progress. Hi, it's Jen with some very important fine print. This podcast and its associated properties does not provide medical or mental health advice. The information, including but not limited to recorded in live episodes, text, graphics, images, and any other material contained on the property or the podcast are for your informational purposes only. Nothing on the Podgress Report is intended to substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified provider with questions you may have regarding a medical condition or a mental health or wellness concern. And please, if you're under duress or considering suicide, please reach out right this very minute to the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988 in the U.S. or searching for the helplines available to you in your country.